we are going to look at a little practice with Excel. And I realized I had two assignments there that were pretty much the same thing, so I removed one of them. Since one was river data analysis, one was cloud spreadsheet, they were essentially the same thing. So I have removed one and I'm going to use the other one for today, the one that I called mapping and cool stuff. So let's take a look at that. I will bring that assignment over here on the screen. What we're looking at, this assignment here, down underneath practice budgets, names with addresses, cool stuff. Click on that. And is that other computer giving you troubles?
Yeah, it won't log in.
Oh.
It's been like 5 minutes.
Well, we'll see. We can fix that. So practice, budgets, names and addresses. We need to go into there because there's a file that you need in there. There's actually two files. So go into practice budgets, and we need to download both of these files. We're going to be using these in our little last look at Excel before we get into databases next week. We'll do one little extra thing. We'll come back to this before the final and do a little practice. So I just click on each little file and download. Click on it. If you don't get a save as, you know it's going to your downloads folder. But I like to know where my files are going, so I set the browser settings. So always ask me. So I'm going to go here in section 2, and I'm going to save it in my section 2 folder for cs101. Save. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Click on that one, save that one to my section 2 folder. If you just click and it just downloads, that means it's down in your downloads folder. To find them, you can always click here and it shows you where the file is. If I click on the little folder thingy, that takes me to the folder where it lives, and I can see it took me to my section 2 folder where that file is living. So this is handy to go see where your files went. Okay. Now let's start up Excel. We'll do a little practice and then use this data and do some cool stuff with it. So y'all find the file on Schoology, assignment, those two files. All right, here we go. Let's start up Excel. Going to do a blank workbook because we're going to do a little practice first. Trying to remember what we did. We want to do a little bit of practice with a budget, but first we're going to see how we can obey Scripture using Excel. Did you know that Excel can help you obey Scripture? The Scripture I'm talking about is over here on the Bible Gateway website. That's my favorite online Bible. I usually go with English Standard, but in this case I'm going to search for number our days, and I find the verse Psalm 90 verse 12 says, teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. I'm going to copy that verse and come back to Excel and paste that scripture in my cells. Oh, don't know why it takes over. Let's reduce the font size on that. Teach us to number our days when we get a heart of wisdom. Let's show how we can actually obey this scripture. We're going to put in our birthday. And if you know the time of your birthday, you can actually add that. The exact time right now. Your age is going to be calculated. That's how we're going to obey Scripture. And we're going to have our age in minutes and in seconds. So watch how we can obey Scripture. Put in my birthday. You go ahead and put in your birthday. I'm going to put in mine, 11/18/1961. today's date, I could type in 11/03/2023, or remember our function that gives us today's date? Well, if you don't remember, you can come up here to the little function pointer there and bring up functions in the category of date and time. And I see lots of function there. Date, value, date, a lot of things to be confusing. The one that we find is down here called now. That gives us current date and time. So let's click now, or I could have just typed equal now, empty parentheses. That is my date now. I hit enter, and now it calculates today's date and exact time. Now, how do you think you can calculate your age? What would the formula be for your age now? Now that we have now here, typed in my birthday, and I think this assumes I was born on midnight of that day. If I think I was born early, let's see what happens if I put in space. Say I was born at 8:00 a.m. See if that seems happy with that. What would I do to calculate my age? What do you think? It's a formula. And remember, dates are like numbers to Excel. So what would I put for my age? What do you think? The time in between now and my birthday would be my age. So the formula would be that date, which is to Excel is a number, minus a smaller number, which is the date or the number Excel associates with my birthday. And I will get my age in total number of days. Now your age should be much smaller than that. Now, how do I calculate your age in minutes? Since there's 529,600 minutes every year. What would I do? Well, let's see. If this is days, I can multiply days by 24 by 60, and that will give me the number of minutes. So I equal then my age in days times 24 hours a day times 60 minutes per hour, and this will give you your age in minutes. And I hit enter, and there is my age in minutes. Let's go ahead and put those in comma format so I can just see how big those numbers are. Now let's get our age in seconds by making that equal to 60 times my age in minutes, which is that value there. And boy, am I obeying scripture. I am keeping track of my days in seconds. Don't panic if you see hashtags. That just means you need a little more room on that column. And there is my age in seconds. And watch what happens if I hit the F9 key. I will see my age increasing. F9 basically refreshes all your formulas. I can see my age counting up. And I think if I hold down the F9 key, I'll see my age. I can just watch my life going away, making me think maybe I better do good things while I'm alive, because that'll help me. Remembering how I'm aging may give my heart some wisdom. So I am obeying a scripture now using Excel. See how we did that? I can go click on each cell and see the formula. There is now minus my birthday. Now is simply the equal now formula. And remember how I found my formulas? If I don't remember what they are, I can go here to more functions, or I can go here to show me functions whenever I need a function. And in your future working with Excel, remember You can go to any cell. If you want a formula in there, you can go to various categories of formulas. You will very likely use the financial formulas. Lots of them there. The one that is very common here is calculating your mortgage payment. There's ways to calculate your mortgage payment based on the number of years of your loan. They give you a lot of great formulas in there. Okay, now we are obeying Scripture, just starting with your birthday. Notice, although it doesn't show my date, I think I can come here and go to my long date. Let's see, let's go to the number formats, date. If I want to show the date and time, there, I can choose that style. And now it does show. I put in 8 a.m., I think, if I remember right, was about the time I was born that day. If I want to be more accurate in numbering my days, because, we want to obey Scripture as closely as possible. Okay, now it's time to do something even cooler than that. Let's go ahead and save this before we go on. Let's save it as, let's call it, with your username, I'll call it jsmart. Let's call it practice and maps. And let's give this sheet a title. Let's call this practice. We'll come back to that doing the marriage saving formula. But let's get our maps first. Here's how we're going to do maps. Watch how cool this is. I need some data to map. Well, let's go to the Data tab. We could open those files and copy paste, but let's learn how we can actually get data using the Get and Transform Data features in Excel. So Data, get data from TXC. I know one of them is a text file, so I'm going to click Data, Text from Text CSV. And now I'm going to browse to where I downloaded that libraries folder. And I am here in section 2, and there is my libraries file that I had downloaded from Schoology. I click on that file and I click import. And it pops up a little import dialog. It's viewing the files and it sees that it has 3 columns of data. Since I know that that first row is my heading for the column, I'm going to, instead of just loading it right away, I want to do a little transform data. Okay, it's giving me a preview of the data in that file, but I want to modify it just a little bit so I don't have them named column 1, column 2, column 3. Watch what I do. I click transform data, and the only thing I'm doing in the transform is telling it that my first row has headers. So I'm going to click first row has headers, and now I see that the top row will have my headers, and now I'm ready to close and load this data. So I just did a simple transform. Now close and load. This is a lot different than how this used to work before. It used to give me a walkthrough step by step. Now I have this transform step. Now I click close and load, and it brings into a new spreadsheet in this workbook the listing of all those libraries that I went out to the internet and found the data for you. Now remember, just like we did that river data, there is tons of data out there on the internet that if you just learn where to find it, you can do stuff like this with it. And we see that we have 2,337 lines of libraries and their location, city and state. Okay, and this queries and connection things pops up. I don't need to see that, so I'm going to close the queries and connections. But this gives you a clue that it actually has formed some sort of a connection with that file, brought in the data, but I don't need to see that, so I'm going to close that. Now comes the amazing part. So far we just brought in data. I want to show you something how I can do with this data. I'm going to select all 3 columns, A, B, and C, because I'm going to do something with this data. Watch what I can do with that. I can go to Insert, 3D Map. Don't go to Maps. That doesn't do what we want, and that's confusing. Jump to the 3D Map. And watch what happens. This is amazing. It will take all that data, 2,300 lines, and map them on the globe of the Earth based on their city and state. And I can go zoom in to any city and state and see, well, there was a listing in La Crosse, Wisconsin. The problem is it doesn't tell me the library name, but we can fix that. At least it shows me where all the libraries are that were in my list. And it's only, well, it's even up there in Alaska. Oh, they've got one way up north. Tells me the city. I don't have latitude and longitude. If you actually had latitude and longitude or zip code, I think it's more accurate. But what I would like to do is see the name. Right now when I hover over a spot, I just see the name of the city. The name is in that column called name up in the field list. I want to drag the name, click and drag the name, like it says, drag fields to the layer pane. This is my layer pane. And I have different layers I can put them in, height, category, or time. Let's drag the name to the category field. And watch what happens now. I get, all of a sudden, all the dots get their special color applied to them. But now if I zoom in and hover over any dot, it shows me the actual name of that library in that location. And remember, my data only had city and state, and so the dot doesn't represent the exact location. It just is the center of that city in general. But I can see where all my libraries are that were available in that data file that I found out on the internet. I think I went to some like library.com and found listings of the library in North America, and I was able to download that data, and then I learned or used it to show how we can map our libraries. Now see, we know all the libraries in Chicago aren't all in one spot, but that is the general center of Chicago, but there's a bunch of libraries in Chicago if we just hover carefully over each one. And I don't know if there's a better way than just to zoom far in to see the various libraries stacked up. So lots of libraries in the Chicago area. If I had their zip code, I think I'd get a more accurate map. Now I can close this now, or I can actually tour this and create a video of it, but I'm not going to worry about that because I'm going to do some more work with this. Let's go ahead and now close this. I still see my data that I imported, and it has this little thing showing you that there are 3D tours available. How do I ever go back and see that tour? Well, here's what I do. I go back to 3D map on the insert page, and I can select the tour that it's remembering. So it's like a separate little program that remembers that mapping that I made. I can go back to that and view it again. It's stored in my Excel file, and I can spin the earth around and find, oh, there's a library in Hawaii on the smaller island in the city of Honolulu. So a 3D map, if you want to experiment with the other map, that's a little more confusing. This map does something like a filled map, and it doesn't give me although it claims that somehow I can compare values across geographical regions, it doesn't do the cool thing that 3D map does. So don't be confused with maps versus 3D map. The 3D map is way cooler. And remember, we did an import of data. Let's do that again on that other list. Remember, I gave you that library. Let's go to that file now. I'm going to go back to data. And now let's, I guess I can't have that selected, or the get data doesn't show up. I remember that I downloaded an Excel file. So now I'm going to go get data from file, Excel workbook. But before I do that, notice that there is other places I could try to get data from. And it used to be, I could go here and it actually would show me I could get data from sources like stock price reports. Now when you go to From Web, you have to know the URL where you know you can pull data from. It's not as friendly as it used to be. unless maybe I'm missing a better way to do it. But I used to be able to come and from the web, it would show me available data sources. Just for fun, let's see if it has existing connections. No, it doesn't have connections, although you do see that library thing generated some sort of connection to data. But there are ways to find data sources out on the internet, but you have to paste the URL to pull like stock price reports. That used to be a link we could go right to. I think Microsoft had a stock price report website, and maybe it just got overloaded. Or maybe they got sued by people that used it to do their stock exchange. Now we want to do the same thing with that data. We would like to map the people. So let's go get that data. Get data from file, Excel workbook, and I remembered that I had downloaded it as student names and location. I click that names location and do import. Because that's an Excel spreadsheet, it gives me some ways to display the data. I don't remember seeing this last time. I think I could just go ahead and do name location. I guess I have to click on that, and it shows me what it's going to import, and that sure looks good. So I don't need to worry about any transforming, because see it has a header across the top. I'm going to go ahead and just do load. My other options are to load to. I'm just going to do load. I think it will bring up a new worksheet in this workbook. Okay, here is my data now. I have a little more detail: city, state, and zip code. Let's do the same thing we did with that other data. Remember what we did? We had the data in a workbook. Select the columns, and now what do? Insert 3D map. It remembers my last 3D map. We're going to click New Tour. Now let's see what happens here. I get a map, gets populated. Right now, just like the libraries, all I see is the city. Now let's add the name here. See how it remembers my last list, libraries? Here I want this guy. I'm going to get this field list. Let's put full name in the category. So now when I hover over a dot, I will see the person associated with that location. Now I didn't do this last time. Let's see if I drag the zip code, can I add that field? It is there in my location already, so I guess I don't need to add that field. Does it have I guess with the zip code it has my city there in the location. So the location and city, I'm thinking I can't refine that anymore. Let's see if it's more accurate. Oh, it looks like it's still, or unless, is that the Emmaus? That might be the Emmaus address. Or is that looks like that's just center of Dubuque. I was thinking with the zip code it could be more accurate, because that is part of the field. What happens if I click on that? Does it get more accurate? I don't think that does anything. So I'm not sure what selecting one of these, if that makes it any better. I think, yeah, I only have the zip code displayed. So it looks like, unless they have a super accurate zip code, the zip code gives me the same information as the city. Let's see what happens if I add the city to the location. Oh, that messed it up. Or sorry, that was country, not city. So that didn't help. Throwing the country in the location didn't help make it more accurate. So I just have location and postal code, the full name dragged to the category, and what that does for me when I put the full name in category, that gives me their name when I hover over it. Now this is from a year or so ago, but you could see how if you have a list of people and their addresses, you could have that in Excel, and you could, if they're from anywhere in the world, you could hover over them on a map and get an idea of where that person's from. There's Mary and Sam. I miss her. Steve and Sam, not related. Oh, somebody over here in the middle of Russia. cs101. Oh, or is that China? Yeah, China. Anywhere on the world, and this, just imagine, just a few years ago, without having this kind of data and the mapping capabilities, this is very valuable to someone in a business. If you have a listing of your customers, say, well, where should we do our next conference? Well, you just pop this up and say, hey, boss, let me help you out. Maybe make you look good to your bosses. It looks like most of our customers are centered around this city. They'll be amazed because they haven't figured this out in the latest Excel. But all you did was insert 3D map, and you've got some amazing data displayed for you. So if you have a listing of friends, let's see if we can get more accurate with some listings. Just for fun, if I wanted to actually create a video, let's see how I could do that. Create video. I can decide where I'm going to send it to. Presentation sounds good. I'll use the default setting. It's going to save it in my videos folder. I'm not sure if it's creating the video from what I did, or if I modify it now, it's creating some sort of video for me. Saving it to my video folder. And let's see what I get from my video. Assuming I can open it once it's created. Let's click open and see what it does. It's opening it on a different page. Not a very exciting video. Maybe I have to create the tour first and then the video. That wasn't terribly exciting video. So maybe I have to start the capture. That takes a picture of my map. What if I wanted to actually create a tour? Maybe I have to create different scenes. There we go. Now let's try to play the tour. Not terribly exciting tour. That was a very short tour. Escape. So I'm assuming I can somehow create different scenes and then wander in between them. It's showing my scenes up there. I haven't done much with the playing of the tour, but I can see that might be somewhat interesting, but I'm not terribly thrilled yet with tours. But you have that capability up there. And if I can delete scenes, and if I ever close my tour, if I come back to 3D maps, it sees the maps that I have created before. So every time you create a 3D map, it actually creates a tour in Excel. Remember how I made it though? I selected my data and then created a 3D map tour of that data. Where you get your data, that's going to be the skills of the internet. Where you go find data. How did I get this data? I actually pulled this data out of our former database, before Populi came around. I had access to names and zip codes, and this is not private information, so I wouldn't be putting your phone number or social security up there. But be careful about that. People out there on the internet, any business that you're associated with, this is how they decide what ads to send you. There's way more information they have about you than just your location. Every time you're out on the internet, your information is out there, and people can map your information, not only where you are, but what websites you visited and what you're interested in shopping for, what social items you discuss, and they target ads towards you based on all that. It's kind of scary. AI is now going to be doing more, and the scary thing about AI is, how do you know whether it's following the regulations that they're starting to bring in on that. You are trusting technology so much. The thing that you want to know is how you can use the technology for your own benefit. All right, let's go back to our marriage saving formula. Kind of have a little marriage saving advice. And this will also help singles, so it's not only for marriages. The reason I call it marriage saving formula is knowing that financial difficulties can bring stress, and bad budgeting can bring financial difficulties. So we're going to start with our bank balance, our account balance. We're going to start with some income. We'll call this job 1, job 2. Another thing that today's society is expecting both husband and wife to work. That didn't used to be such a big thing. It used to be kind of frowned upon and discussed, and some people got upset. And then we have expenses. Total income. And then we have expenses. And we have car, home, food. Total expenses. All right, let's fill in some fictitious values here. Let's start with the bank balance of $10,000. Our income, job 1, we're getting $1,000. Job 2, we're getting $1,500. Somebody makes more money than somebody else. That too could be a source of conflict. Total income, well, I'm going to just use my old auto sum. There's my total income. Expenses. Well, we have a few expenses. Car, we're thinking gas and any repairs. Let's reserve $200. Home, we got that big mortgage, that big house, and utilities and things. Let's say we're spending $1,500 at least maintenance of our home. That includes mortgage. Food, we like to eat well, $300. Getting more expensive though. Total expenses, auto sum. Now comes our marriage saving formula. Ending balance. What is the ending balance for the month? Who dares to try the marriage saving formula? What formula would I put here? Anyone want to give it a try? I know it is a scary thing. I'll get you started. It's equal something. Anyone want to give it a try? What would the marriage saving formula be for your ending balance? Yes?
Would it be the income minus the expenses?
Income minus expenses. You're warm.
The bank balance plus the income minus the
That's right. You need to remember you started with some, and the order you put in it is not a big deal. But yeah, remember that initial balance, add income, subtract expenses. And you get your ending balance. Now, what a lot of people do is total income, they add their bank balance to their income. No, income is just the total of these two incomes. Total income is not bank balance plus income. Total income is what is coming in that gets added to your bank balance. Very common mistake, making total income to be balance plus the other categories. No, income is just the total of the income. Expenses, most people get that right. Total expenses are my total of those three expenses. And so then, once you have bank balance, remember, always add that to my income, then subtract my expenses if I want my ending bank balance. If I wanted my net increase, that would be income minus expenses. But I'm not asking for net. I'm asking for what is the ending balance. Now, one little tricky thing here. what would be my bank balance for the next month? And let's just give it a month here. Let's do November. What would be my bank balance for the next month? What should I type here? You're going to want to type 10500, some of you. But no, you don't want to type 10500. You want to type equal to B26, where I have already calculated the ending balance. I don't need to calculate it again, and I don't need to type it. I can just say what goes here is what was at the end of November, B26. And I have my beginning balance for December is the same as the ending balance of November. Calculated for me, and I better put B in there, or it'll put just the number 26. There we go. There we go. Now I have the correct balance. And the last thing to do whenever you're doing accounting tables, put everything in at least comma format. That's an easy 3 or 4 points that so many people miss, to put their numbers in the correct format. Now, because the formula does get copied and changes reference, I don't have to worry about any absolute referencing. I can just fill handle over, and I have the projected balance next month, because you can see I'm spending less than what is coming in, which is always a good thing. Because part of our expenses, let's insert, we forgot an expense. Let's insert a cell here. We forgot an expense about tithe. That would be a formula of 11% times my total income. Not my balance. 11% of my income would be my tithing. And did you notice my ending balance did not change because, oh, I put the tithe in the wrong place. That's why. Let's move that. Let's cut that and paste that. Cut, Control X, Control V, or insert row above. Notice my total expenses skipped over my inserted row. If I want to fix that, I have to fix that reference or drag through the proper reference for that, or change that to B24. Now I can fill handle over my tithing, and it will, oh, it's doing the right thing. Yeah, total expenses. Yeah, that's right. It's adding that to my expenses. And now ending balance is slightly changed because that formula. So if you ever do adding a row right above the total expenses, the auto sum doesn't include that. Let's see what happens if I add a row in between two expenses I already have. Insert. And let's call this miscellaneous of 100. It does keep that in the auto sum because it's the range and you inserted something in the middle of that range. So if you inserted something at the end of the range, it doesn't automatically keep that in the auto sum. Put that in the middle, it added that to my auto sum. And again, I can fill handle over because everything is relative reference. That's enough practice for that. You now know how to import data. You now know how to obey scripture using your now formulas. Remember, that was just subtracting one date from another will give you the difference of the dates in days. I didn't figure out it was days until I actually did the formula, and then I realized, hey, that's how many days old that is. It doesn't tell you. I don't think it does now say that it's in years. Let's see if I look at now, current date and time format as a date time. It doesn't tell you that now subtracted from another date gives you the number of days in between. I guess that was just something I figured out by subtracting one date from another. Thing to remember here is, as dates go on into the future, that this is a number that simply counts up. And remember, F9 refreshes your results of your formula, and you can see that now is changing every, man, that's like every millisecond, every 100th of a second, I'm seeing a new number in there. So with that, as our practice, done a little practice here, imported 3D maps. Let's see if we have satisfied the requirements of that. I think we've done everything needed on that assignment. Let's take a look at that in Schoology. Yeah, we've uploaded it. We put in the tours. We've used data from both of those maps. And we are done. You can save that and upload it. And you get out early today. It's Friday. Give you a little time for establishing those personal relationships, taking a little break. And now you know, mapping of data. All you have to have is a map of names and addresses, or just addresses. We'll just give you dots. The name, you can remember if you have the name associated there in the 3D map. I can attach the name to its category, so then when I hover over the location, I see that name. And then it's just up to you to find where that data is available on the internet or in other people's listings, and you can turn it into a cool map. You can associate numbers with the sales in that area. So much you could do to impress and to actually help make good decisions for your business. All right, save that, upload to Schoology, and we are done with Excel. We'll be doing databases on Monday, the most powerful software in Microsoft Office.